Hello, everyone. We're so thrilled to have Dr. Sunny Nason with us for this educational series. Dr. Sunny, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me. And I appreciate you and all that you do. It's a pleasure to be here having these conversations. Some of my specialties include preventative medicine, longevity, and anti-aging. So today we're going to give an introduction to molecular hydrogen. Let's just jump right in. The conversation about health and well-being has changed a bit in the last decade, as it does. But, what I witnessed today are people being more interested in and understanding that we are complex individuals, and the inclusiveness of the holistic approach means addressing synergies and systems, how things work together to produce an outcome. And the science has shifted, and we're learning these advancements and are generally interested in them, because when you understand or know your health better, you know yourself better. And on the other side of that, understanding the root of an imbalance or problems, where they come from, ends up helping not only one organ, but potentially an entire system, and so on. So from a medical standpoint, some people now in our neck of the woods call that functional medicine. Those who understand Ayurveda or traditional Chinese medicine know that that way of addressing whole person health, let's call it mind, body, spirit, just to broad stroke for a second, that's been around for thousands of years. Now, I like an integrated approach, oftentimes necessary when we're talking about healing. And we have a pinpoint subject matter today that we're going to discuss, and that is exciting discoveries in the application of hydrogen into our physical bodies. So let's take that pinpoint and just come up to a 20,000-foot view for a second and give a couple of broad strokes so that when we come back to that pinpoint, we know that that's our easy button. So we've had some different segments of time where we humans, we've had these levels of understanding. We can refer to these as epics. And there have been technological epics, and there's been epics of thinking, right? So we've had mythic and magic, and then the introduction of the industrial age. We've recognized where, during this time where we might have made some mistakes. You can see that on the next slide here. And then we try to, of course, make improvements on that. If you want to get nerdy, for a second, we can look at that heavy industrial age and think that, we turned Epstein-Barr into that crazy nuclear gremlin instead of being that cute, fuzzy one for our bodies. And that ended up affecting, our genetics going forward. Now, I'm actually very excited about where we are right now, because I feel like we've just come off that level of thinking where we had an overuse of the term superhuman. Now, what that conversation was really about is pulling up to a 50,000-foot view of understanding consciousness and the 12 dimensions of how, the frequencies that we exist in. Thank you, Burkhart Heim. And then applying that to our physical being. Now, I love quantum mechanics. We can talk about it all day long. I just feel like that's a little bit of a rabbit hole for some people right now. And that the term alone, maybe superhuman, implies there's a lot of pressure that goes along with that. And the phrase like, be your best self, I'm not knocking it 100% because I think the good intention was there. And what that means is feeling really great and amazing all the time. And I'm going to go ahead and leave it at that, because like I said, I think we're past that. And if I were to put a name on the age of where we are right now, I would call it realism and truth. We're getting better and better at this, and we're meeting in the middle. We know that we can't sit on the couch and expect things to just drop into our lap when it comes to success or our health. We also know that we don't belong on that hamster wheel. not being able to catch our breath, because it's better to take a pause, focus on, let's say, one thing at a time, be present, right? Understand that things that seem important to us, we make a decision, now carry on, go on, live your life, quality of life. Here's how we understand our bodies right now. We know there's a framework. The body moves through the world thanks to strong, flexible muscles, bones, and skin. There are things we can control, maybe not control too, but let's just use that term loosely for a second and recognize that our bodies experience and understand and respond to surroundings and our environment. And we need a good brain and nerves and hormones in order to do that. The care and feeding of our body as an organic machine of interlocking systems that automatically fuels, cleanses, and protects every cell. And where we are in the life cycle, as in, our body's journey from single cell to senior citizen, and what the parameters are, for our health, within what they should be within each piece of our life cycle. Okay, I don't need to sit in the idea of superhuman, but I want an amazing quality of life and feeling good. Nobody deserves to live in pain. And what we want is the best version of ourselves so that we can feel healthy and good and have a really good version of us for our interaction with other people, meaning, your kids and people that you love, or maybe that you're taking care of an elderly parent, and we have the energy to do all of those things. Our kids deserve to be raised by the better and better version of us. Our students can learn from the better and better version of us too. So we no longer want to just deal with something when it's broken, but we have actually turned our head and saw that there's this entire way of thinking about medicine, which includes being preventative, anti-aging, longevity, some of my favorite things. Sorry if I just put that song in your head. So energy, where do we get our energy? It's so funny that sometimes the main picture, if you were to see an image, is somebody jumping up in the air to show energy. I like to actually think of energy in this way. Some of you might agree with that. But, maybe the quick answer to that might be, from our mitochondria, which is definitely true. But let's back up for a second and just take a couple of broad strokes here. So when I was young, my biological parents divorced and remarried, and I grew up around retail and design, nursing, and both mechanical and nuclear engineering. So I was taught attention to detail and how things work. Science and art were my best subjects, and I was so fascinated with space. I didn't want to maybe be an astronaut, but more like astral plane and go visit galaxies and such. But so I'm into science, and one day I see this picture of the fifth Solvay International Conference of Electrons and Photons from 1927 with this woman sitting in the front row. And I'm like, who is that? Does anyone know who that is? Any guesses? So that was none other than the two-time Nobel Prize recipient, Marie Curie. So I was interested in what she was up to. And then there was Mileva Maric, with her hubby, Albert. Number one, I thought women in science were pretty rad. And at those times in our history, this 1 year of amazing papers was delivered by Einstein, probably the most famous equation of all time, the equation of mass energy equivalence, which basically states that anything having mass has an equivalent amount of energy. And that, of course, is E equals mc squared. So this equation explains how the sun and every star in the universe works by using nuclear fusion on the next slide, in which hydrogen and helium atoms fuse together while much of their mass is converted to energy. And I actually like to think about nuclear fusion as in this next slide here, where there's a little bit of sacred geometry involved. I can't help it. But does anybody follow what NASA is up to with discoveries? Anybody? Some of you, I think. 2019, a SOFIA mission detects helium hydride in the nebula of a sun-like star, confirming that the chemistry of early universe, in the understanding of our more complex chemistry of today. So, what's at the top of the list? What's at the top of our periodic table is hydrogen. It's the hydrogen is the lightest, most abundant element in the universe. About 90% of all atoms are made up of hydrogen. It's part of many biomolecules, both major and minor. So some of the major ones would be like carbohydrates and proteins and fats and nucleic acids. And some of the minor ones would be DNA, amino acids, some enzymes, cholesterol, certain vitamins. And we obtain those things most through plant and animal sources. So that is all interacting with input and therefore, digestion, but also with our microbiome. We should probably be paying attention to hydrogen. Okay. And so we all know that in different areas of the world, different countries, there are people that specialize or have expertise in certain sciences. Let's focus on medicine for a sec. So when it comes to hydrogen, it turns out that Japan really has the most experts with the application and efficacy of using hydrogen. So much so that even use of hydrogen in emergency settings, such as supplying ambulances with hydrogen in a gaseous form, someone has suffered or is suffering from a stroke, application of hydrogen through a breathing apparatus keeps the part of that brain that's experiencing the impediment alive without even 100% of the blood flow there until the person can get to the hospital. They can restore blood flow in that area and being able to salvage, let's call it, from what could be very harmful damage and potentially a long recovery. Cellular structures have not been able to perform well so far, let alone become a superhuman, right? So when we're talking about, our bodies, our membrane potential is a key aspect of cellular function and cell-to-cell signaling. Therefore, all body functions, intercellular communication among cells can create either positive spiraling effect of happy, healthy cells, or it can create a negative domino effect of compromised cells. And inflammation, many of you know this, causes all degenerative disease. Infection and injury, so they activate the immune response and then the pain cell signaling. So if you have affected tissue, the fragments of that damaged cell or cell debris activate the immune system cells, and that causes the cells to produce cytokines and inflammatory peptides, etc. When you get better, you should return to health. Sometimes there are times when the immune system doesn't turn off and you end up with non-resolving inflammation or chronic illness. So this changes cell signaling and changes gene expression. And we get this from epigenetic influence as well. So meaning outside influences, right? Environmental influences. Now, years ago, I used to lead people through detoxes, different ones, heavy metal, liver, gallbladder flushes, systemic detoxes, colon cleanses. Today, my approach is a little bit different. And here's my philosophy. If you create an environment where you're supporting proper activity to be able to take place, then the disruptors that are looking to cause some trouble, they usually they can't survive in the healthy environment. Okay. So, and they end up flushing out of the system. So those, that gets flushed out, those disruptors that shouldn't probably be in abundance in the first place. Okay. We can feel a little bit overwhelmed maybe these days with the harm that can happen in our brain and heart and gut just on a daily basis. I mean, there's EMFs and radiation and bad soil with our food intake, let alone the things that, taste good, maybe ingredients that we consume that are very hard for our bodies to break down or search for the nutrients that are in them. So how do we produce an environment where we have the most benefit and rid the inflammation or the free radical damage? And how do we create that environment without having to overwhelm the body with maybe even supplements or time-consuming things, I don't know, teas and tinctures, because it shouldn't be that difficult. I mean, we're all biohackers, but there's a line in the sand where you don't want to overwhelm, right? So some of you have heard that hydrogen acts as an antioxidant. And we understand that antioxidants belong in our diet. Let's go over that concept just real quick and to get the understanding of actually what role hydrogen is playing, because it's actually quite significant. So free radicals are generated continuously in our bodies during food processing and energy production, or when exposed to certain environmental factors like smoking or air pollution. There are, there's a lot of people trying to heal their guts right now. So let's use this as an example. You've got the weight that you can't seem to lose, or the leaky gut, IBS, any number of things. When you have high amounts of free radicals, it causes a condition called oxidative stress in the body that damages our cells. As a result, oxidative stress plays a critical role in developing and processing of many diseases, right? So for example, we've got things like cancer and cardiovascular disease and diabetes, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's. Therefore, the body needs a constant defending mechanism to fight free radicals and oxidative stress. So a key player in this mechanism is antioxidants. I mean, overall, there are many substances that have antioxidant activity, most commonly found in our fruits and veggies, like, for example, vitamins C and E, or selenium, manganese, beta carotene, flavonoids, CoQ10, anthocyanins, blueberries. So in a perfect world, though, when you have a healthy GI tract and the hydrogen that would be taken in reacts with those organic fruits and vegetables, the carbs, right, the fibers in them, and this would create a reaction where it would rid the body of waste, but you already have belly problems. So, and then you've got all the other environmental toxins that are coming in. So there's an overwhelm, and it's just not happening properly. We have this, all of us have this going on. So you have that oxidation happening in abundance. And so when you add the additional hydrogen that's, that missing electron gets paired H2 and the oxidation, right? So the result is H2O, okay, water. In this case, it's not to hydrate the body, but the fluid to allow metabolic waste to exit the body. Amazing. So what happens after that is a cascade of getting rid of inflammation. When you get rid of the inflammation, now what happens? Okay, it's really instantaneous and ongoing with no harmful side effects. See what I mean here? So, okay, great. So now you're thinking, I would love to do this for my body. And, where do I go? Who has the best machine, or how can I start doing this right away? So I'm a big researcher, and I do have a recommendation for you. And there's a machine that I've been using. And I swear to you that I actually owned one of these machines before I started talking to my producer friend here about having a few conversations with you all. And so it was kind of a funny story, serendipitous, I like to call it. But by far, the very best that is available right now is called the LOURDES HYDROFIX. And I'll give you just a few like bullet points really on this right now, because we're just getting started in a series of information that we're going to present here. The research and therefore the technology of this one, that is the, this company that has been creating, has gone on for decades. It is literally from Japan. The top engineers have put this machine together. They have special patents on the materials used. When they were developing this, they looked at every single modality, every way of making hydrogen, realizing that they needed a special, platinum metal that doesn't touch the water. It's non-iodized and non-electrolyzed, never using chemicals like lye, never, directly electrolyzing the water. They've got the highest grade membrane that you can possibly get, because there's different grades of membranes, right? So, but even the pitcher is extremely high grade polymer that can withstand boiling water, which we would never do, but it's just in terms of the engineering here, we could even call that maybe over-engineered in a way. And also because of the strict measures where this was created involving children, it's already been pre-approved for use with small children and babies, because where the technology comes from, they're very aware and cognizant for these measures. So, and this one gives you the option to drink the water and also to breathe the gas. And, I'm going to get into that more at a little bit later date. This, of course, was an introduction here. So this is the one that I use. The next time we talk, I'll actually tell you how I use it, what's happened since I've been using it, give you some actual testimonials. They're fantastic. I encourage you to go to the website and take a look at the information there. And there's some really amazing people and testimonials, YouTube videos in abundance on this exact thing. It's very cool to watch, the transformations that have happened. Some are tear jerkers. Some of you will really relate to what some people have gone through, and where they are now. It's just amazing. So I'm very happy to come over here and to share some information about this exciting thing that I actually use myself. So that's how I'd like to close out today. And please feel free to go to the website if you'd like, and then tune in next time for our continued conversation on molecular hydrogen. Thank you so much for being here.